Good afternoon, everybody. It is Tuesday, March 18th, 2025, and I am a logical leftist, Jeff Waldorf. Welcome to the live stream. Welcome to the show. Those of you listening later on through our Patreon, thank you for your support. And man, buckle up. Okay, buckle up for a show, which is, of course, going to be at points entertaining and also enraging. So, we have, of course, some fun news. The Tesla takedown. That is fun. We've got investors bailing on Elon Musk's flagship company. That is amazing. I almost said flab there, and I'm not sure why, but now I'm getting that image of Elon at the beach. Yeesh. Oof. And I tell you what, I am not exactly a great sight with my shirt off either. So I got no I got a glass house, okay? But still, I at least I admit it, all right? At least I admit it. Um, we've got that investors divesting away from that, um, away from Tesla. We've got Donald Trump, in news that will infuriate you, of course. Donald Trump easing in more corruption. So I'm going to tell you how. We've got Texas that's being Texas and arresting midwives. I kid you not. Just horrific. Fox News and the right wing media, of course, you're not surprised. You're probably not going to be surprised to hear this. They're obsessed with trans people. I'm going to show you a couple of graphs that are just illustrative of how much time they're actually spending on trans people versus the other major news agencies in reporting. So that is just really, I mean, it would be more interesting if it wasn't just horrific for the trans community. We've got Israel breaking the ceasefire. That is major foreign news as well. And so, yeah, it's a full day today. So why don't we dive into it here? But first, before I do so, I do want to thank some of the new patrons over on patreon.com/jeffwaldorf. C. Basil, Madi Dharma, thank you. That's someone that goes way back. Been a very big supporter of the channel. I want to also thank them for the super chat. I believe it was a super thanks the other day. Shannon Burke, and I believe I already thanked Virginia Mackey yesterday, but nonetheless, I am going to thank her again. So thank you. Also, super thanks to Elusive Magic. Thank you for that super thanks. Definitely appreciate that as well. And all the support from the community. You're all amazing, and you help keep this channel, this show going in these very difficult times, very dark times. All right. With that said, let's do it. Tesla takedown. I don't know why I felt the need to do that. But okay. All right. Fun times. I know I'm a bit ridiculous. The Tesla takedown is having a disastrous effect on the share prices of Elon Musk's flagship business. According to a recent ABC News report, the falling stock has even led to members of Tesla's board of directors to sell off millions of dollars worth of that stock. Recent filings with the SEC revealed that Tesla insiders have dumped about $100 million worth of shares since the start of February. So now we're in March, okay? So one of those investors includes James Murdoch, who is the estranged son of Rupert Murdoch and has been a board member since 2017. ABC writes that the longtime Musk ally became the latest to dump the shares, exercising a stock option and selling shares worth approximately $13 million, according to an SEC filing. The sale took place on March 10th, coinciding with the stock's largest single-day decline in 5 years. Oof. Now, that also coincides with terrible news for Elon Musk coming out of Europe. About 94% of Germans are like, not interested in buying a Tesla, not interested in the cyber dump, not interested in any of that. Okay, we're not going to buy those cars because Elon Musk sucks. And he tried to interfere in the German elections. So not only that, but other other car dealers actually have better EV choices at this point now. So oops. So there's a mixture of things, right? Of reasons, but again, it gets better. It gets better. Even Elon Musk's own brother, Kimball, who sits on the board, unloaded 75,000 shares worth approximately $27 million last month. And the chairman of the board, Robin Denholm, has offloaded more than $75 million worth of shares in 2 transactions within the past 5 weeks. Now, to be fair, of course, Denholm's transactions were actually planned in advance. Okay, so not exactly a result of, Tesla stocks are plummeting, whatever. But it does come at a time where the stocks are doing just that. So, oops. Now, those stocks have fallen nearly 50% from a peak in mid-December and coincided with Elon Musk's, of course, unpopular gutting of government services. People are not happy about this, okay? People are not happy about Elon Musk. Even right-wingers at these town halls. I know. Oh no, it's all left-wing agitators going to these town halls in the middle of Nebraska, the middle of Kansas. These really small towns that nobody even heard of, to go and cause trouble. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Okay. I'll be a paid protester. Sure. Except that those jobs don't actually exist. But it would be funny if the only job creation that happens under Donald Trump would be paid protesters. He's the jobs president, all right. Yeah, okay. Now, here's what's funny. Jay Ritter, a professor of finance at the University of Florida, told ABC News, quote, that whenever insiders, including directors, are selling shares, it's not a positive signal. Wouldn't it be great if Elon Musk lost so much money that he would be forced to be on Medicaid and SNAP to survive? The very programs that Donald Trump himself, as well as members of Congress, are targeting right now. Remember, $880 billion in Medicaid cuts, $230 billion in SNAP cuts? Wouldn't it be great if he lost that much money? I mean, we're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars, okay? And probably something that's never going to happen, but it would be great to imagine, whisper of a dream, if you will. Also, that he could feel firsthand the results of the cuts that he has championed. Oh, it'd be great. I understand these people need to feel poverty. They need to feel real struggle. Okay, because they haven't. They need to learn why people need these programs. Okay, they need to see the firsthand the people living on these programs do not live high on the hog. Because rich people are always happy to talk about, oh yeah, those poor people, they're taking everything. They're living so great. No, in reality, of course they're not. Of course they're not. Okay, look, these rich people are lucky they don't have to worry about paying the bills, worry about buying food or being able to afford health care when they get sick. Or in Elon's case, childcare. He's got 14 kids. Now, obviously, for most Americans, childcare is prohibitively expensive. Okay? So people who are super, super wealthy like that and grow up with a silver spoon in their ass will never understand how expensive and stressful it is to be poor. There are studies out there that show that poverty literally messes with your brain. Although, who knows? Maybe this could be enough to fix Elon, because there's something else wrong with his brain. I don't know. But I do know that these protests and these boycotts, they're a great thing. I love it. And we should keep doing that. I mean, I was doing that already because I can't afford a Cybertruck, or wouldn't even want one actually, but I couldn't afford a Tesla or anything like that. Are you kidding me? No, I wouldn't be able to afford that. But nonetheless, people who could, which again, as I mentioned in other videos, the clientele for Teslas are, white suburban liberals with a decent amount of money. He's alienating that entire group of people that were his customer base. And we're not going to see right wingers. We're not going to see a lot of conservatives rushing in to fill that void. No, of course not. So now, here's what's funny about that too. Anybody complaining about boycotts or complaining about, the free market is, the free market at work. It's a bit hypocritical. You know what I'm saying? They love the free market until the invisible hand comes up and slaps them in the face for trying to cut off grandma and grandpa's social security checks. I can't say we didn't warn him. We did. But, I mean, so far, it seems to be a case of F around and find out. I want to afford a hybrid vehicle, not a Tesla POS. That looks like an architect had a nightmare while designing a vehicle. Yeah, I mean, I love calling it just like a PS1 looking trash can. And I know swastikar is the new name for it. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what it is too. It's such an ugly vehicle. I've seen it. Okay, there's a couple of people even near where I live, okay, that have been driving around in those what is essentially an oversized trash bin. That's what it looks like to me. Not a cool design at all. Now, my wife talks about how it looks like a 5-year-old drew it. Okay, so and judging from what we've seen about Elon Musk or from Elon Musk, that's not an assessment that's far off. Okay, so anyway, there we go. Why don't we move on here to the next segment here, and that is how Donald Trump is bringing back corruption. Yeehaw. Okay. President Donald Trump is celebrating the removal of a law to go after money laundering. Great. On Sunday, the Treasury Department announced that it would stop enforcing any penalties or fines associated with the beneficial ownership information reporting rule under the existing regulatory deadlines, but it will further not enforce any penalties or fines against U.S. citizens or domestic reporting companies or their beneficial owners after the forthcoming rule changes take effect either. Now, what does that mean? Basically, the government is no longer going to require shell companies to disclose their owners and beneficiaries, which would allow wealthy corporations and individuals to hide their profits from the public, whether or not that those profits be from gifts and other investment from foreign nationals. Okay. Now, this rule was part of the Corporate Transparency Act, or CTA, passed back in 2021, which required some businesses to report information on people who own or control a company indirectly or directly to the department's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. So Trump, of course, immediately took to his platform, Truth Social, to say, "Oh, exciting news! Corruption! It's legal again." All right. He said this Biden rule, and by the way, this rule hadn't even been in place. Okay, it had been blocked by a judge, so it's never been enforced. He said this Biden rule has been an absolute disaster for small business nationwide. Furthermore, The Treasury is now finalizing an emergency regulation to formally suspend this rule for American businesses. It's an emergency regulation. It's an emergency that I was not able to do this kind of corruption. What? Now he says the economic menace of beneficial ownership information reporting will soon be no more. So hold on here. I don't really know of any small businesses that are using shell companies. All right. I mean, the whole idea is to stop big business from doing financial fraud. The CTA was passed by the Biden administration as an attempt to tackle things like tax evasion, which of course Trump loves. Trump loves evading taxes. Thinks you're smart if you do it. Fraud. I mean, that should be fairly, it should go without comment, considering Donald Trump's alleged fraud and other illegal acts. And look, this is why Republicans hate this rule, because they want to be able to do it. They want to do these things. But one of the things that this would block is financing terrorism. Yeah. But these Republicans are saying, hey, if you want to finance a terrorist, that's fine. Oh, great, lovely. Now, of course, they always claim with these rules, the requirements are too steep for small business and companies to fulfill. How dare they have to do reporting? That's why they've fought it in the courts and even stopped it from going into effect. So again, it hadn't been in effect at all. And now, of course, the rule is effectively dead. So there you go. By the way, this is not the only anti-corruption rule that Trump has killed in his so far rather short stay in office. Okay, he hasn't been here that long. Earlier this month, Trump issued an executive order freezing enforcement of the 48-year-old Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, which prohibits any person or company tied to the United States from paying money or offering gifts to foreign officials to help their business. Gee, I don't know, man. It kind of seems like the swamp is getting even swampier with all of this money laundering and these gifts to and from foreign officials that's happening. I don't know. Like, you want to give things to Russian officials or have Russians give things to you, Israelis, the hell, the Saudis? I mean, it's basically an open auction now. And Trump is going to be able to reap the rewards of his corruption along with all of his friends. It's going to be even easier now for a business with unpopular practices, and there are plenty, or a president that has shady business interests, perhaps in real estate. You know, that real estate, of course, has a history of money laundering attached to it. To be able to avoid any kind of federal scrutiny without these rules. And so it's very difficult to go after these companies for money laundering and these kinds of things. And this reporting requirement would have helped figure out, like, hey, this looks shady. Why don't we look into it? Can't do that anymore. It's exactly the kind of situation that a corrupt businessman would love. And Trump it's a corrupt businessman. No doubt about it. Now, here's the thing. Understand that there is no amount of money, of wealth that will satiate these people. Okay? Because one of the arguments is, well, Trump will never do something like that. Why does he need more money? He wouldn't sell out the United States. He wouldn't sell out the government, wouldn't sell out the people in order to make an extra buck. Why would he? He's already a billionaire. Well, Elon Musk, he's already rich. Why would he do anything like that? It doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, if you're already rich. But again, this is no amount of money, okay? There is no amount of money where they will say, we have enough. That's enough. There's nothing that will stop these people from continuing to step on other people for that extra dollar. Greed is a sickness. It is a pathology. And it has broken so many people's brains. while the effects of it also kill other people. People that don't have health care, people that can't afford to eat, people that lose their homes and are forced to sit on the streets until they're arrested by police, thrown in the jails. And that's where it goes, to destroying the hopes and dreams of so many people. That amount of greed. And now Trump and his friends' greed will continue to go unchecked, along with Elon Musk. Look, if you voted for Trump to stand against the swamp and against corruption, because that whole claim about Doge, oh, just stopping the corruption. No, it's not at all about stopping the corruption. This is the corruption. And if you voted to stop it, you've been had. Bigly. Of course, good luck trying to get people to believe it. But there it is. The right wing in Texas has begun a terrifying new crackdown against the rights of women. They are now arresting alleged abortion providers. That's right, arresting. One of them is a 48-year-old Houston area midwife named Maria Margarita Rojas. She was arrested on allegations that she had provided illegal abortion. This is the first instance in which an abortion provider has faced criminal charges since the passage of Texas's abortion ban in 2022. Very draconian abortion ban. Attorney General Ken Paxton announced the charges against Rojas on Monday afternoon. Texas, he says, life is sacred. I will always do everything in my power to protect the unborn, defend our state's pro-life laws, and work to ensure that unlicensed individuals endangering the lives of women by performing illegal abortions are fully prosecuted, Paxton said in a statement. Texas law protecting life is clear, and we will hold those who violate it accountable. Yes, so pro-life. So pro-life in Texas. Wait, isn't that where Uvalde police officers refused to go into a school with an active shooter? Because, the cops were like, oh, we might get hurt. Yes. Or, unless you're an oil company or other large profitable corporation whose business practices or profits, may kill people from pollution, things like that. But if you're actually giving women choices over their own body, well, the state is going to come after you, because that's what's going on. Jesus. Paxton's office charged Rojas, known locally as Dr. Maria, with operating a network of clinics between Waller, Cypress, and Spring in the northwest Houston area. The clinics allegedly unlawfully employed unlicensed individuals who falsely presented themselves as licensed medical professionals, according to a press release. Now that is absolutely rich. Paxton supports things called crisis pregnancy centers. And I'm sure a lot of you are already aware what these things are, but if you're not, these crisis pregnancy centers, right, are set up in order to discourage people from getting an abortion. They will literally hire unlicensed individuals to cosplay, that's right, to dress up as doctors, scrubs and everything, white coats, all that. They're not actually doctors, and they will give out intentionally misleading information about abortion, saying things like, oh, well, if you get an abortion, it leads to infertility. No, it doesn't. Well, if you get an abortion, it'll give you cancer. No, it doesn't. None of that is true. So for Paxton to go and make that claim, oh, we want to stop the unlicensed people, pretending to be doctors, is super rich. Hypocritical, I don't think entirely covers it. But yeah. Now, what are the consequences for running afoul of Texas's draconian anti-abortion law? Well, Dr. Maria, could spend her life in prison, along with having her state medical license revoked, even if she didn't technically break the law. What do I mean by that? Hold on here. Hold on. Texas law technically permits abortion in the most rare and dire circumstance, in order to save the life of the mother or pregnant person. The law, however, like a lot of these other states, the laws are incredibly vague on that. And that's why a lot of doctors are afraid to do abortion, even if it does save the life of the mother. Even in that situation, doctors aren't entirely sure. And so it's like, I don't know. In 2023, for example, Kate Cox was forced to flee the state of Texas for emergency care, even after a court had ruled that the 31-year-old mother of two should have access to an abortion under the ban's medical emergencies clause. So she was able, technically under the law, but they wouldn't let her anyway. She had to leave Texas. Okay, that's insane. Paxton had intervened in that court ruling, threatening that any Texas abortion provider believed to help Cox would face felony charges. They don't care about life. You're not trying to save her life. No. And so they will allow women to die to try to potentially save a fetus. But when it gets to that point, to where you need a medical emergency abortion, odds are that child is not going to live either. And that's the reality. And by the way, it's not just in-state providers that are now being threatened by Paxton and his fundamentalists. No, you have a New York doctor that was sued in December for prescribing mifepristone, the abortion pill, to an in-state resident. Paxton demanded that the provider pay $100,000 for every violation of the state's ban. You're trying to police other states because it never stays within their own borders. Okay? Paxton's lawsuit was the first attempt to enforce a state abortion ban beyond Texas borders, which of course is the plan. Okay? The plan is to pass a national abortion ban. But Trump said he wouldn't do that. He also said he wouldn't enact Project 2025, but here we are. Obviously, that was a lie. Look, Republicans, they're not done with abortion rights. If you think getting rid of Roe was where they were going to stop, oh no. They want to get rid of any abortion rights, pass a national abortion ban, get rid of same-sex marriage. I mean, we are seeing the rolling back of rights that were won decades ago, if not longer. Okay? I mean, how far do they want to take us back? I'm afraid to know the answer. I'm pretty sure it starts with 18-something. Look, none of this is going to make America great again. But it will make America white and male-dominated again, which I suspect is the entire point. Here in Louisiana, they tried to extradite a doctor from New York for prescribing the abortion pill. Yep. Yeah, they're just, I mean, it's bad enough what they're doing to people in their own state. Now they're getting other states involved. It's just absolute insanity. But once again, all part of the plan.
You're getting a vigorous spanking because you've been a bad girl.
What all these Republicans sound like. All right. Let me guess, they're staffed with fundamentalists, asked Mithril. Those crisis pregnancy centers? Oh, absolutely. Because they can't find real doctors. All right. Fox News and the right wing overall are obsessed with trans people. This is not entirely a surprise, okay? But I'm going to show you a couple of graphs here that are going to be pretty illustrative of just how much trans people are living in their heads rent free. It's according to a Media Matters analysis of cable news outlets. Fox News spent nearly twice as much time covering President Donald Trump's anti-trans executive orders as MSNBC and CNN. So that is twice as much time. During the first month of Trump's presidency, he had issued several anti-trans executive orders. This is after running an election, by the way, where they spent over $200 million doing anti-trans ads. One of the executive orders that came about from Trump winning was banning federal recognition of trans people. So the complete erasure of transgender Americans, as well as non-binary. One also banned trans female athletes, and another banned trans military members. And this is in the middle of them having a recruiting crisis. So good luck with that. And another banning gender-affirming care for trans people 19 and younger. Fox News, according to this graph, spent 4 hours and 8 minutes covering these orders between January 20th and February 19th. So that is a lot of time. MSNBC spent 2 hours and 33 minutes. Okay, so this is your liberal network, all right, supposedly. And CNN only spent 2 hours and 9 minutes. Notice, by the way, that most of that is news. Okay, on the CNN and MSNBC side, the rest, not shaded, is opinion. So, yeah, there you go. Fox News had 85 coverage segments about Donald Trump's executive orders. Okay, whereas CNN had 39 and MSNBC had 32. Fox News also referenced the orders in 83 teaser videos and mentions, so that encourages viewers to watch the upcoming broadcast, because we're going to talk about trans people, and passing mentions of Trump's orders during coverage of unrelated topics. So, comparatively, CNN and MSNBC aired 53 and 51 teasers and mentions, respectively, referencing the orders, but that pretty much, for the most part, was in a news context. So, these numbers, to me, they're not shocking, because the right wing has found the perfect wedge issue in talking about trans rights. A lot of people don't understand transgender issues. There is a lot of disinformation that flies around, promoted by a lot of right-wing media. Right-wing media is dominating pretty much everywhere. Cable news, online, local, print, whatever's left of it. I mean, it is all right-wing dominated. And so all of this, when it's weaponized and directed towards a specific community, as it has in the transgender community, it's no surprise that so many people believe in all of this disinformation. Okay, so now, of course, the vast majority of these segments have very little, if not any, trans representation. And the trans representation that they do have is Caitlyn Jenner. Okay, basically, she has become their token trans person against trans people. Okay, that's it. Now, the analysis found that the majority of Fox News coverage of the orders occurred on its opinion shows, as I mentioned, and nearly all of its coverage excluded actual trans people speaking about their experiences. Not only that, but they found that Fox News personalities and guests also mentioned the issue more frequently in segments that were about a different topic altogether. So they're just jamming it in there for absolutely no reason. It really shows you that this topic is really in their heads rent-free. They think about trans people more than trans people. Okay, that's insane. about a group that this is about 1% of the population. Funny how Fox News and the right are blaming the 1% for so many of the problems in this country, when in reality, there's just a different 1% that is causing the vast majority of the problems for most of us. It's called distraction. And so that's what they're using. And they're using it very effectively to get, people to stop talking about how the billionaires are screwing us over. Instead, they're focused on, trans people. I tell you, let me ask you, is demonizing trans people going to make eggs cheaper? No. No. Is it going to help you afford rent? No. Is it going to help bring good paying jobs back with actual benefits? No, of course not. See, Fox News and the right wing, they clearly do not want you going after the source of the problems, the real source of the problems, which is the wealthy donors. It is divide and conquer. It's the oldest trick in the book. You're going to pit one group against another. And it just happens to be, of course, using trans people as a scapegoat for a lot of our problems. It's absolutely disgusting. Now, let's go to the framing, okay? Let's get to the framing here, because that framing is pretty abhorrent as well. So this is the framing here that you saw on Fox News. The majority of the time, they talked about, quote unquote, keeping men out of women's sports. Which, according to non-binary sports journalist Katie Barnes, hits upon one of our most emotional touch points as Americans, which is to couch it in the talk about fairness, okay, and about protecting women and girls, right? So these people think that women are so weak and powerless that a trans woman can beat them at darts or chess. I kid you not. They banned trans women from chess for having a supposed advantage. What advantage do trans women have in chess? Okay. Maybe they have an advantage in chest, but not in chess. Okay. I guess maybe some people are mad about that too. Look, here's the thing, right? Dylan Mulvaney. I think you're aware of who Dylan Mulvaney is. It's the woman, trans woman who had like a very short deal with Bud Light and had her face on a can. Okay. Limited edition can, and the right wing freaked out over it. Okay. Dylan Mulvaney was like recently in The View or something. I don't quite remember what publication she was on, but she was talking about the sports ban. Okay. And she, when it came to sports, she's like, well, I'm obviously, I'm not that girl. And you look at her and it's like, well, yeah, you're tiny. Do you think that she has an advantage over someone like Serena Williams? Look, Serena Williams would break that poor girl in half. Okay. And so and look, so, Serena Williams does tennis, right? There's so many incredibly talented, strong female athletes out there. Trans women are not going around and destroying every woman at sports. Again, I think that this whole thing started because some people did believe that it was about fairness. And I understand that. Like, oh yeah, no, fairness. But that goes back to all the misinformation that it gets out. And of course, how the right wing control all the media. And they have found in trans people a perfect scapegoat and distraction technique. And so they're doing this. And by the way, all of this is really insulting to women athletes, painting them as all weak and all men as jacked sports powerhouses who, at the same time, apparently want to put on a wig and go dominate women at sports for some reason. That doesn't make any sense. Their arguments are like Swiss cheese. There's so many holes in there. So many holes, but it shows you the power of propaganda because this is the dominant narrative. And now we see why. They nonstop talk about it and intentionally leave out actual trans voices unless those voices happen to be on their side. Look, I'm going to be honest. I wasn't always as pro-trans as I am now. I had to learn. I didn't quite understand it when I was younger. All right. And then I actually did learn. I actually looked at facts. I looked at studies. And of course, I had to parse through a lot of the bullshit and to be able to see what's actually true. And the bullshit is only intensified once the right saw that they were able to use this as an effective wedge issue. And it's been so incredibly effective that even you've seen liberals turning on the trans community and supporting what is essentially led to the erasure of trans people from existence, from public life. So that's the reality here. Okay. And by the way, they're not going to be done when they finished with the trans community. Gay community, that's also next. And then obviously women are also on the chopping block. All right. Trans rights and women's rights, people have to understand that they're inextricably linked together. As one goes, so goes the other. Let's see. What about the Tate brothers? Are they staying at Mar-a-Lago? There's an interesting battle going on here on that. And I'm not going to get into it in too much detail, but Ben Shapiro, not a fan of the Tate bros. Okay. Ben Shapiro coming out and saying, whoa, what are you doing? Why are you letting the Tate bros into America? What is going on here? Okay. And I believe he may be allying with DeSantis because Ron DeSantis is not happy with the Tates being in Florida. But then there's the people who did want the Tates to come. Mainly, of course, Donald Trump and Don Jr. and that family who love this guy for some reason and have invited him and are helping him try to avoid these sex trafficking charges from Romania. It's really interesting. There's a fight that's happening here, and it's Ben Shapiro and Ron DeSantis. Insane. Maybe that's a segment I need to look into doing to get really into the nitty-gritty details of that whole thing. All right. But anyway, why don't I move forward to the last story here of the day? And that is, of course, bad news for Gaza. As if there's been a lot of good news. The ceasefire in Gaza was broken on Tuesday after a massive Israeli airstrike killed over 400 people. At least 404 people, according to Al Jazeera, including many children, were killed in renewed Israeli attacks. Israel, which has enforced a total aid blockade on Gaza for more than 2 weeks, issued a new forced displacement order for several areas before doing these strikes. And so here we go again. Apparently, these attacks are just the beginning. Israel, according to Netanyahu's office, will from now on act against Hamas with increasing military strength. The Israeli government claims that the attacks are intended to free Israeli captives and to force Hamas back to the negotiating table. Now, the only issue with that, of course, is they never left the negotiating table. There are, of course, going to be differences between the sides, disagreements, things like that. I get it. But let's note here, for the record, it is Israel that broke the ceasefire. They wanted to go back to the bombing. And what's worse is that President Donald Trump gave Netanyahu his blessing for this bombing. The White House said that Israel gave the Trump administration advance notice of a wave of airstrikes it launched across Gaza Strip early on Tuesday. The Trump administration and the White House, according to Carolyn Levitt, telling Fox News, the Trump administration and the White House were consulted by the Israelis on their attacks in Gaza tonight. The Wall Street Journal, citing an Israeli official, reported that President Donald Trump gave Israel the go-ahead to restart the attacks. So much for Trump getting peace between the two sides. I thought he was going to negotiate a great deal. What happened? I thought he was going to stop this whole thing. No, of course not. A group that represents families of hostages held in Gaza slammed Israel's decision to resume the fighting and claimed that the government, quote, chose to give up the hostages. We are shocked, angry, and terrified by the deliberate dismantling of the process to return our loved ones from the terrible captivity of Hamas, according to the Hostages Family Forum wrote in a post on social media. Families of the kidnapped children have been begging for a while now for meetings with elected officials who are entrusted with the fate of their loved ones, the group added in a second post. Now, it turns out that elected officials did not meet with them because they were planning to blow up the ceasefire, which could sacrifice their family members. Look, they never cared about the hostages. Okay, hostages were a pretext for Israel to do these bombings. Okay? And I'm not saying that taking the hostages was the right thing to do. No, of course not. But what we're seeing is a complete disregard for getting back the hostages. In a statement, Hamas said Israel is fully responsible for violating and overturning the agreement. The Palestinian Foreign Ministry, which is part of the Palestinian Authority in the Israeli-occupied West Bank, had called for international intervention to stop the resumption of Israeli attacks, adding that it, quote, affirms that political solutions are key to achieving calm, stopping aggression, and restoring the political horizon for resolving the conflict. The United Nations Humanitarian Coordinator for Palestine also called for a halt to the fighting, saying this is unconscionable. A ceasefire must be reinstated immediately. Well, here's the thing. With Donald Trump's approval, there's literally nothing that is stopping Israel from finishing the job. And by the way, that's exactly what Trump had said during his campaign, that he was going to allow happen. Yeah, we're going to let him finish the job. So then later on, I can go in and I could build Gaza Lago. That's it. That's it. And so you have this situation where the bombings now continue unabated. Look, here's the thing. Netanyahu, by the way, needs the far right to hold his coalition together and to retain power. So one of those members is Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich, who was excited about the attacks. It's like, yes, let's get back to bombing them already. God, we already took so much time off bombing them, and we need to bomb them more. My trigger fingers are itchy. Come on, we got to get in there. That's what he says. And then you have Ben Gvir's party, who had previously left that coalition, now saying, no, we're back, baby. We're back. Hell yeah. We left because of the ceasefire, but there's no more ceasefire anymore. We're back, and we're going to bomb them. If you thought that Donald Trump cared about peace and was able and would be able to get the two sides together to have a real negotiation, you were horribly mistaken. Not only did Trump give his blessing to the bombings, but around the same time, he started bombing the Houthis, which is going to get us into a war, possibly with Iran. I don't know. I don't think I should have to tell you, but a war with Iran would probably end up being an unmitigated disaster for the United States. You thought Iraq was bad and Afghanistan. Iran, what's about 4 times the size of Iraq? And much more, well, I guess has a bigger military. Not good. It's not good at all. Okay. But wait, you might be wondering, how's this going to get us into a war with Iran? The Houthis are in Yemen. Well, Trump has literally threatened to hold Iran responsible for any attacks carried out by the Houthi rebels. But by the way, the Houthis have been blocking Israeli ships as a result of the Israeli bombings of Gaza. So all of this is connected to what's going on in Gaza right now. So Trump wrote on Truth Social, let nobody be fooled. The hundreds of attacks being made by Houthi the sinister mobsters and thugs based in Yemen, who are hated by the Yemeni people, all emanate from and are created by Iran. Any further attack or retaliation by the Houthis will be met with great force, and there is no guarantee that the force will stop there. He is threatening war. But if you're not convinced yet, here's this next statement. He said, every shot fired by the Houthis will be looked upon from this point forward as being a shot fired from the weapons and leadership of Iran, and Iran will be held responsible and suffer the consequences, and those consequences will be dire. And there it is. He's going to get us into a war with Iran, which is something that Israel's been fully looking forward to, by the way. Been trying to get us into a war with Iran for a while. Now, look, I don't like the government of Iran, but I certainly don't want to go to war with them. No, this is not what America First looks like. This is not what being a pro-peace president looks like. This actually looks more like Israel first and defense contractors first. Look, here's the thing, though. I mean, yes, our foreign policy has been Israel first for a long time. I understand that. And it was under Biden. Sure. That said, what Trump is doing is taking what was already, I think, misguided foreign policy and making it that much worse. So they're going to allow Israel to ethnically cleanse Gaza, okay, because got Trump's approval, while the United States maybe launches a war against Iran. There's no one left to stop Donald Trump. All the adults are no longer in the room. Okay, so if he ends up starting a new disastrous war with Iran, I mean, yes, we're all going to feel the consequences of it, obviously, as is the rest of the world, I think. And it's all going to be because Americans voted in somebody who was absolutely unstable. Not good. Not fun. So, handing over the world's most powerful military to that guy, probably not a good idea. I would say guaranteed not a good idea. So, I am not looking forward to what happens going forward. But there's your news that I have of the day. Insurrection was enough reason for me to vote against Trump, among many other things, too numerous to mention. Yeah, of course. Well, there you go. All right. With that, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting the show. Please like and share the stream, like and share the videos that I'm going to put out on our YouTube channel or on Facebook, all that wonderful stuff. Try to have a good day, and we'll see you back here tomorrow on Wednesday. Another probably disastrous, but fun show if I could do that. Okay. We'll see you all later. Take care of yourselves and your family, and much love.